Hey, everybody. I'm excited to be here and to be part of this conversation with someone who is a friend, a colleague over the years. Maybe I act like his crazy uncle because I met him when he was a teenager, and I continue to know him for the next 25 years. And this man remains as amazing, as honest, and as happy, and even more talented than when first I met him. And when someone's like that, you know you have a very, very special person. And that's Kenan Thompson. And I did meet him when he auditioned for the show I developed in Nickelodeon, All That. Some of you may know it. It's been a privilege to continue my relationship with Kenan over the years and collaborate on projects, which hopefully we'll talk a little about tonight. He's an actor, a host, a panelist, a podcaster, a writer, creator, a super person, a super brother, and a super dad. Kenan is so beloved behind the scenes of the legendary SNL that his producer, Lorne Michaels, calls him the person I most rely on in the cast. He's a master in that studio, and he knows the best way to do just about everything. Here he is. Please join me and zoom into our Zoom, Mr. Kenan Thompson. Come on board, Kenan.
Yeah.
Woo.
What a great intro, man. Your intro was so good. You have so many credits. I feel like I should be interviewing you tonight. Let's start at the beginning. Where did SpongeBob come from? How are you?
Well, we both have amazing credits, but you are really like one of the most intriguing people because you're so public and so private in some ways. It'd be great to. What I love about you is that you have a great conversational persona. And by the way, we're going to talk about your podcast, which is the way people can get to know you better that way.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a great conversation to have where people can see both sides of the talent and the person that I've come to know and love over the years. So let's just start at the beginning, man. You were born in Atlanta, right?
Yeah, I'm from Atlanta, Georgia.
I didn't know your dad, but your mom, Ann, and maybe she's listening. If she knew we were talking, I'm giving her a big shout out because your mom is an amazing lady, and it's obvious where you got your smarts and talent and good looks is from her, obviously, right?
Definitely, all of the above to her. It's all credit. Anything that I have is credited to her. I wouldn't be here without her. I wouldn't be anything. I wouldn't be handsome or educated or anything. So no, I love my mom. And she loves you. She always, had a special thing for you. You and Mike Tolan were her two favorite.
Yeah, because we took care of her baby for her, right?
That's exactly
no,
right.
But you're a middle child. I'm kind of curious, right? You got an older brother, right? A younger sister, right?
My sister and I are 14 years apart, so she's my half sister. So we had a little gap, but besides that, my brother and I are 4 years apart, and we pretty much grew up together. So I was the baby of the family when it comes to him. Yeah.
So you weren't really the middle child. You got to be the baby.
Yeah, I was the baby for a long time, and then I was a middle child when I was in my teenage years. So that was a nice adjustment. The pressure was off of me a little bit. I could kind of go do my thing. But I guess, I don't know, I'm very public and private probably because there's not that much going on in my private life. I'm usually just at home hanging out, trying to be a good husband, good dad, you know what I mean? But
well, that's it then. Thank you and good night.
Yeah, basically.
Now you love biking, right?
I've been biking, yeah. I've been on my bike. It's been a lot of fun.
And you biking to work is a lot?
Say it again?
Do you bike to work?
Yeah, I was biking to work in New York. It's a little tougher out here. It's a little further.
Right.
Los Angeles now.
How did you find that?
Biking to work in New York was perfect. Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It just felt like, living like a cleaner environment type of life, like not contributing to so much pollution, but also zero traffic, you know what I'm saying? So I could always depend on getting to work right at the same, 25 minutes, 30 minutes or whatever that I had scheduled and stuff like that. And I don't know. It's just something about being out in the open air just wakes you up a little more. And I was always just more energized when I went into work as opposed to like just, kind of sitting down driving or sitting in the back seat or whatever.
Biking's great. I have a good hookup if you have any complaints. My son-in-law is the director of greenways and bike paths in New York. He designs them.
Oh man.
So Ted Wright. So if you have anything you want to complain about, now you can
No,
shout him out to Ted and tell him, how's he doing?
please thank him for me because he's doing an incredible job. Like I've ridden all the way out to the Verrazano Bridge and back, you know what I mean? Like because of the bike lanes and bike paths, like all through Brooklyn, all through the city, over the bridges and stuff like that. It's really, really, really nice. There's a lot of great, great biking in New York. So he's done an incredible job. So thank him for me if you don't.
I will. If there's any complaints, though, you got the hookup, okay?
I appreciate it. It's a little bumpy on the FDR, I will say that.
All right. We'll work on that. You got off in acting in a really, maybe this is wrong, but was it true that your first role at 5 was Toto?
Well, that was 7, 8-ish, something like that at church. But my first role was in kindergarten. I played the gingerbread man. But at church, we did the Wiz at church, and then they didn't really have a part for me. So I was like, I'll play the dog. And that's how I wound up playing Toto, and it was a lot of fun.
And so what does a dog reaction look like?
Just a lot of barking and then, trying to be tender with her when she's crying. So I'd snuggle up to her and stuff like that. And then I remember there was this one point where everybody was running out of the back of the church for this one scene because it was the end of the scene. But I was on my, all fours basically the whole time. So I was like, I don't know, I guess I'll just get up and run too. So a dog just basically stood up and ran out of the church. It was really funny. What are you gonna do? It's cute. We're kids.
You're improvising even then, right?
Yeah, I got to think on your toes. They were going to leave me behind, and what am I just crawl out slowly? No.
And what was the gingerbread man like?
Gingerbread Man was great. It was my first taste of, I like to entertain people type of thing. I was never necessarily like the class clown or whatever, but when it was appropriate, like in a performance and stuff, I liked hearing the response of people, laughing and enjoying what I'm doing, basically.
And then you slid right into a chicken commercial, right? You did?
Yes, that chicken commercial came when I was about 9 or 10-ish, I started to learn how to audition, by that point. So I was taking classes and I found an agent and stuff like that in Atlanta and just started auditioning, and I landed this fried chicken commercial, and it was amazing. I never got to see it because the restaurant wasn't in Atlanta. So it played in like all neighboring states, and I never got to see it. But I remember it, and I remember it being a lot of money for not a lot of effort, and I was hooked.
That's been your mantra ever since, right?
Exactly. That's definitely the name of my book.
And what was the audition piece that you'd start? Did you have an audition piece that you would do?
No, it depended on
just read the lines. You just read the lines.
If it was a Publix commercial, it would be whatever they're writing, whatever campaign it was, and Sonic commercials, and all kinds of stuff.
Well, later on, did you develop an audition piece that you would use?
No, not one specific thing. Like for some reason, like I was very separated by the time I was auditioning for like real things like the Mighty Ducks and all that, just because I had, I guess, been through the process of being told no and I'm not right for this and that either, that I kind of like stopped taking it seriously almost. And I guess I became very kind of, like confident, but really just cocky. You know what I'm saying? So by the time I auditioned for all that, I was just like, what do you need? You need an old man? You need a Jamaican? I got it for you. I'll pile it up, feet up on the desk. Just like, I think you guys want to hire me, you know what I mean? Type of thing. But I'm glad because it definitely like took the nerves out of it, because if I knew, how important those jobs would end up being, I probably would have been terrified.
Well, you got a first taste of it on Real News for Kids for CNN, right? That was sort of a, which is great, sort of weird serendipity. We've talked about this where I had actually done the pilot for them. Um,
So
and then they liked the pilot. They decided to do the show, but they decided to do without me or any of the other people. They brought you in. They were much smarter. They were like, "We'll
that's
get
so
Kenan to
crazy.
do it."
But we're still even connected all the way back to that because,
Right, right.
okay, to give people a little background on what Real News for Kids was, it was a TV show where kids would read the news to other kids, because we need that. And like first thing in the morning, kids were reading the news. And they had like, a couple of anchors and, like a weather person maybe, or like a sports person. And I was hired as the movie critic. So I got to like watch all these like PG rated movies and G rated movies for free. It was pretty awesome. And then I would critique them and judge them on my popcorn scale. And 4 popcorns is the best you can do. And I remember my first movie that I critiqued was the first Mighty Ducks, and then I wound up being able to audition and actually get into the second Mighty Ducks. So it's all very.
Did you like it? How many popcorns was Mighty Ducks?
Oh, I gave it 4 right off. I was just like, that was amazing. I've never seen anything like that. I was thoroughly impressed that it had African American boys in it playing hockey. I've never seen anything like that. You know what I'm saying?
I was going to ask you about
Pretty
that.
good. I didn't know if I believed it, but it was nice to see.
That was your audition for Mighty Ducks right there. They saw your review and said, "We'll get him. He likes our movie."
Yeah. He gave us 4 popcorn. You got to get that guy.
You got to get that 4 popcorn guy. Um, Now you said that you were a big fan of The Price is Right. Is this
Mm,
right? And
yeah.
that it actually had an effect. Its joyfulness had an effect on your acting style in some way. How did it have an effect? Just the sort of exuberance of it, or what was
Yeah,
your
because
thought? I love that show too.
when I first was watching it, I was watching it like with my grandmother. Like those are my first memories watching it. And, she was, from small town Virginia, and, they had a very humble home, and the TV was like a little black and white television up in her bedroom, like in the windowsill. You know what I mean? And I just remember being very hot because she didn't have air conditioning. So she had a fan and the TV next to each other. And it was just like a sweet spot in the house. So I would just sit with her and watch The Price is Right. And I remember like other things kind of being boring until that show came on. And even in black and white, I could tell it was, vibrant and colorful and energetic and stuff like that. And it just drew me into the mystery of like what is really going on inside that television box. You know what I mean? Like I want in there.
Right?
Whatever that world is, like I want it. You know what I'm saying? Like I want to be a part of it in any sort of way. And then as I would, pay attention now that I, um, kind of been drawn to it, I would see it at other people's houses, and then they had color TVs and stuff like that. And I was like, man, they're giving away cars and stuff like that. Like, what is going on? Like I gotta get up in there. So growing up in Atlanta kind of afforded me the opportunities to, dip my foot in those waters by being able to audition for different little commercials and stuff like that. And then, the eventuality of the Mighty Ducks.
And on Ducks, I mean, you learned to play hockey, huh?
Yeah, I couldn't even roller skate, even though I had my little special skills on my resume, like roller skating. Yeah, sure, I can do that. Could not do it at all. But thank God they taught us. We went to like 8 weeks of hockey camp, before each.
Wow.
So yeah, it was intense, but I'm grateful because I can still skate to this day.
And you did a terrific job. What do you remember most about the movie? I mean, what was your moment there that you loved?
It was all the hockey, man. Like it was intense. It was hockey camp all day, every day from day one. And day one was my 15th birthday. So I was just like
Wow.
busted my tail all day long and just in super duper pain and just exhausted, slipping and falling. And, the worst part about that is picking yourself up all day. You know what I mean? You're just lifting up all that weight all day long. And I was just exhausted. The next day I was sore. I didn't want to act anymore. I was like, I want to quit, but my mom wouldn't let me quit. And I went back and, every day went back and got better and better and less sore. And then eventually I was able to like play the game, and that was a lot of fun because we were like, just like kids playing a pickup basketball game or something like that. It was, very
Right.
exciting. And I was able just to release a lot of energy all day without making it seem like I was at work, basically. Like the work was, the least part of my concentration throughout the day. You know what I mean? I was more so concentrating on being with my teammates and laughing and joking around and having fun.
And who was your favorite on the set there that you hung out with?
I mean, we were all enamored with Emilio. I mean, I know I was. He was a big giant star and he came from, big
Right.
Hollywood family lineage and stuff like that. So I was just intrigued by him. Like he showed us that movie, what was it? Whatever movie it was with like him and Dennis Leary. Now I gotta look it up. Emilio Estevez,
It doesn't sound like it's PG though.
Dennis Leary, yeah. It wasn't PG. Judgment Night. Yeah, he showed us the
Okay.
Judgment Night in like it was like a script. It was the first time I seen anybody like rent out a theater or a screening room or anything like that. You know what I mean? So I was just like in awe that somebody could like, rent space. I didn't know what that was. I was only 15. And then he showed us this movie with Cuba Gooding Jr. And we thought it was the coolest thing in the world. Didn't perform great, but we thought it was a very cool movie. And I just thought he was a big giant movie star. So I was just happy to be kind of, close to that or in the same kind of arena as that. But, amongst the Ducks, we were all pretty close. Like me and Goldberg were like this for a long time.
So we have a question. We're starting to get a lot of questions in here, obviously,
Nice.
which is great. One of them from someone named Kevin says, would like to know who your comedy influences are. And his comment is, of course, that you're way funnier than me, which is true, of course, you're supposed to be.
Well, the funny part is that we have good laughs. Anytime we talk or,
Yep.
strategize on an idea or a project, we always, whatever it is, the phone calls or the Zooms that lead up to whatever we're doing, pitching or whatever meetings we're having, we always have good laughs. So I thoroughly
Yep.
always appreciate that. But my comedy influences growing up, were, I guess, the usuals up, up until I was able to actually be a little more grown and mature and do my research. So it started out with like Cosby, of course, and like, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, anybody that had a sitcom, basically, Jamie Foxx eventually. But then, of course, I grew to learn that, Richard and George Carlin were two of the greatest. And Jim Carrey rapidly became my favorite, especially after Living Color and onto his movie career. Cable Guy is probably, one of my all-time favorite movie performances by any kind of entertainer, just because I think, what Jim Carrey did in that movie is really, really, really hard to, surpass, basically, as, just a performance. But yeah, I mean, Eddie Murphy was the guy, Chris Rock, Dave Chappelle, they're all my heroes. Tracy Morgan too, so yeah.
And you used some of those in your, well, I don't know if you used them right away, but you did give an amazing audition, very cocky and confident, as you said, for all that. Very impressed with that. We were like, who is this guy? I know he's in the Mighty Ducks, but this is going to be a big show here. But you were very, very comfortable, and you landed the part easily. And you're actually one of the older people on the cast, right? Relatively to
Yeah, I
some of
was
the other ones that were there.
second oldest, I think, behind Lori Beth. Yeah.
Yeah, and of course, Kel, what do you remember about the audition or the early days of all that? That was.
I mean, I only remember auditioning once, really, just having that meeting with
Right.
you and Brian and Mike at Universal, good old Universal over
Yep.
here, still in my wheelhouse. But the early days, I remember because I was hired last, so I guess the cast had some kind of meet and greet before the first day of shooting, and I kind of only showed up on the first day. So we had school first, so I was really just quiet and doing my work, and I think they thought I was kind of stuck up or something just because I was really shy. And then we went to rehearsal. That's when, you know, my actor, you know, shell came off basically, and I was, you know, much more enthusiastic and talkative and having fun or whatever. And that's when they were like, "Oh, we like this guy. Like, he's here to do what we're here to do." And I'm like, well, yeah, I thought, you know, people didn't really clown around in school. That was a big no-no for me in my house. You know what I mean? I was very square. And I just remember, you know, the boys hanging out with the boys, you know, being really, really tight with each other, Mikael and Josh, and the girls did their thing, you know what I'm saying? And we were all hanging out in Orlando and sneaking into Universal Studios for free at lunchtime and riding a couple rides and then running back and just being,
The
you know,
best, right? How
misfit.
could you?
It was absolutely the best.
How could you do any better to be make a show in an amusement park for lunch, go out and go on rides, play games, and then come
Uh,
back and right?
right? It was the best. So like time flew by, and you know, it was just Orlando kind of at its prime in the early mid 90s. It was good times.
Good times. And the characters you played were fantastic. The ones you invented and they invented for you and you inhabited. I mean, which were the ones that you enjoyed playing the most? I mean, I personally like Pierre,
Pierre was definitely
escargot.
up there. I mean, Pierre was always a lot of fun. I liked playing Lester Oaks only because of how hard it used to make Dan laugh. Like for some reason, Dan used to laugh so hard at Lester Oaks construction worker. Um, Principal Pimpel, Miss Pidlin with the peas and that awful smoke collar. I had to wear this collar that would like smoke whenever I was getting mad. I remember like trying to do my lines and inhaling this weird, you know, whatever they use to make the little fog machine work or whatever, and just coughing horribly all the time. Um, Foreshadowing, I guess. Um, uh, you know, yeah, like who else am I forgetting?
You have a little Pierre in you to give us?
Yeah, Randy and Cooking with Randy and Mandy, the little chocolate
Oh.
cooking show. Yeah, Pierre. I give Pierre all the time. Let's see. Le poisson cacaposito to possède le sandwich. The monkey has a pimple on his booty sandwich. The sillier the
Good
better.
times, my
That
friend.
was our motto.
Good.
Like, it could not be. Yeah.
um, and you're still friends with a lot of the folks on the show, right? You still stay in touch. I mean, it's been
Yeah, everybody. I mean, like the recent years have been really good for everybody kind of reunioning, you know, around everything, especially since we rebooted the show. So I'm pretty much caught up with everybody, and yeah, we're all still cool.
so. Just want to say thank you for joining us on this Shine Global night. You know, Shine Global gives voice to children and family stories of resilience around the world, and it's been a real privilege working with Shine and making movies over the years. We're able to bring you conversations like this. I would ask the audience when they get a chance, go to shineglobal.org on the website, check out our work, um, and uh, and help us contribute to the work that we're doing, which brings these stories and also brings a lot of joy in seeing kids' resilience. And a lot of your work has also brought a lot of joy to kids and families around the world, Kenan. Obviously, especially and most prominently, your incredible work on SNL. Um, thanks that we were able to give you a many years of auditioning for SNL and all that.
Yes,
none
absolutely.
of us none of us could believe that you wouldn't get directly on SNL, but I know it took you a while, but we were all like rooting for you and thinking, how can they not take this guy? He's like, he understands sketch comedy. He knows exactly what to do. And how'd you finally nail it?
I mean, thank you even for saying that, number one. But you know, it's a dream, and you never really know if that dream is ever even going to get close to becoming a reality. Like when I finished with Nickelodeon, I was sending SNL tapes for a couple of years, but the only feedback I kept getting was I look too young, and I was like, well, there's nothing I can really do about that except for try to go out here and gruff it up a little bit in life and learn some adult lessons, I guess. I didn't know what they wanted from me, but eventually Tracy left the show and I was able to actually audition for the show and went through that whole process and ended up landing it. But I mean, you know, to me it
Now,
was
now you didn't do. This is why I asked you about the audition piece. You weren't like a stand-up comic or anything. So for
no.
your audition piece, did you really do a phone call between Arnold Schwarzenegger and Al Sharpton? Is that true?
Yes. I mean, it was a nightmare for me because it was more of a like a cattle call of comics, and you know, I guess at the time the majority of, you know, black male comedians were, you know, stand-ups, you know what I'm saying? So to make it easy, they were just like, everybody come up with 3 to 5 minutes or whatever. But like 3 to
Right.
5 minutes, if you've never done it, you know, after 12 seconds of the first thing not going right, it's a long, you know, road into that 4 minutes. You know what I mean? And things can go off the wheels, you know, kind of fast, off the rails pretty fast. But I was a sketch guy, you know, so in my mind, I could go up there and just start off with a phone call between Al Sharpton and Arnold Schwarzenegger, like not even greeting the audience that's sitting in front of me, just kind of starting with the sound effect of a phone ringing, and then Al Sharpton picking up, hello, and then Arnold Schwarzenegger, Al, you got to help me. California is falling apart. Well, why are you calling me? Because we need your help over here. We need your help in California. And I'm just going back and forth, hoping that people would recognize I'm doing two different voices and maybe give me props for that, which is really cheap, but I didn't know what else to do. And then 3, 5 minutes flew by, and you know, I thought that, you know, yeah, I kind of blew my shot just because I'm not a stand-up, and I was like, there's better people, I guess. But the call back, they gave me a call back, was at the studio with cameras and stuff like that, and like that's where I really felt comfortable. So it kind of made sense for me to just play the camera doing this kind of sketch bit, you know what I mean? And that kind of worked. But it didn't work enough for me to get the job fully. Like I remember getting laughs and stuff like that, but it wasn't like I was hitting like a home run, I don't think. But I think they could see that I could do voices and characters. But I went home, you know, back to LA when I was living here at the time, and I didn't hear anything for a week, you know. And if anybody knows anything about auditioning, you usually hear either that day or, you know, within the next day or something that they want you, you got the job, we're moving on, let's do this.
Right. Right.
So for a week to go by, I was just like, yep, I blew it. It's over. You know what I mean? The dream's gone. Let me figure out, you know, something else that's going on and move on, basically. But they finally called and they were like, we like you. We want you to audition one more time at another comedy club at the Laugh Factory over here on Sunset. And it was just like, now you know, do 10 minutes or 7 minutes or whatever. It was just like, great but awful for me because I don't do, you know
Right.
what I mean? I was like back in the mud trying to figure out what to do with this, you know, whole process once again. And I remember just being like terrified because the other like 4 guys I were up against were all stand-ups and they were crushing it. When I tell you they were like
Right.
crushing the room, like full room
Oh,
laughs almost
geez.
everything that they said.
Oh
And
no.
I was in the back just like losing my mind. I was so like dehydrated. I was drinking water out of the bathroom sink because I didn't want to walk back and forth to the bar and like distract people or whatever. So I was just hanging out in the back room. Like it was a little like, I don't know, green room type of thing and a little hallway. And then the bathroom was like right next to the stage. And that was like all the hangout space we had. You know what I mean? So the only place for me to get water was out of the sink, man. I was disgusted with myself, but like I could not quench my thirst. I was so nervous. And then, you know, luckily my time went up and I went up there and like I had one friend in the audience and I just played right to my one buddy. Like everything I did was just like looking straight at him, and then I ran off the stage and they called, you know, the next day or whatever. It was like move to New York, and I moved like overnight basically.
Wow. Well,
Crazy.
Catherine, I think you got the full story about the moment you find out about SNL there. So,
Yeah.
um, so many fans of so many of your sketches. Randy wants to know, like, when you do a sketch like "What's Up with That" and Black Jeopardy, which you do a lot, how do you keep it fresh? You know, because you do it a lot. So, what do you
Yeah.
do to keep it fresh?
The freshness I think is in the details, you know, like the guests, especially for What's Up with That. Like it starts with the panelists. we want to try to get interesting panelists to have like the meat core distraction, I guess, be nice. So, you know, we had the Mike Tysons, we had the Morgan Freemans, the De Niros, Robert Williams, rest in peace, you know, like all
Amazing.
those
Yeah.
kind of people just for the panel. And then when the circus starts while I'm singing, you know, Jake the Snake Roberts and like all these other like kind of, you know, nostalgic characters can come in just to, you know, be fun. So that's where we always found like the new fun is when we wanted to bring in all those like new kind of circusy type references basically. And then on the Black Jeopardy side of it, it's hard. You know, that one varies, you know, a lot more on the host because they're kind of like the pivotal joke of it all. So depending on
Right.
who they are and where they stand in the world is where we're trying to find the joke. So for Tom Hanks to be like a MAGA person and for us to find like common ground is incredible. You know what I mean? And then for Chadwick to kind of figure out the whole like potato salad and that run, you know what I mean, was, you know, just like really awesome as well. So it's harder on that one because they usually go really well and it's kind of hard to top something when it goes really well. But you know, it all reflects back on how great the hosts are, basically.
And Colin wants to know that he talks about, you know, they incorporate politics so much into SNL. And have there ever been no actors or fellow actors who've been against any of the roles they had to play politically or saw what you were doing and were a little uncomfortable with that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's times where people kind of, you know, fall on either side, especially for somebody I think like Kate, who plays a lot of people on the other side of her beliefs, probably, you know what I mean? And
Right.
I'm
Right.
sure it's very emotional for her. But at the same time, it's a little bit of a healing because she gets to, you know, do her part in kind of taking those people down a notch, you know what I'm saying? And calling out, you know, the hypocrisies of those kinds of people and you know, she's able to contribute in the showcasing of, you know, the ridiculousness of some of those characters that she plays. And, you know, maybe that's some healing for her. And yeah, anytime I wind up, you know, misportraying somebody, it doesn't necessarily feel great. You know, like you want to try to get it all the way right, especially when you're commenting on things that have real consequence out there. So, you know,
Right.
politics is not just a word; it's people's livelihoods, you know, that are at stake, basically.
Oh, you talk about that, which you were made such, I thought, a careful and smart comment on the show when you talked about having to play the black women on the show all the time because there weren't any black women on the show, and I thought it was just and many of us thought, what a perfect way to make a statement because you're talking about what you have to portray, but also what the issue is at the same time. And
Yeah, at the
what
same
was your thoughts about it?
yeah, anytime I, you know, think back about that, like the biggest thing I remember about that whole statement was how out of context it was taken with that first original quote, like whatever, whoever quoted what I was
Right.
really trying to say. And like that whole firestorm that happened after that. But the eventuality of finding like, you know, Leslie Jones and Sashir and now, you know, the Michael Che and you know, Ego and, you know, it just continues to roll and Chris Red is in there now. It just opened up, you know, a bigger door and you know it was you know able to bring in more talent because I guess it was so like blown like not necessarily out of proportion but it was like blown up and you know whether or not like it doesn't matter that my words were taken out of context the end game is what you know I'm most happy with, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So my
absolutely.
original point was to me, like the auditions that I had seen did not have a lot of black women that seemed like they were ready to do the show. You know, like the people that are usually super duper ready to do the show come from improv houses, Second City, the Groundlings and whatnot. And, you know, in my, you know, experience at that time, the numbers just weren't really there. Like the numbers of black women, the representation of black women was not a very high number. And if there were women that were like, you know, on the level, they were probably already working. You know what I'm saying? But nobody's gonna quote all
Hmm.
that.
Hmm.
All they want to do is a headline and say, I think black women can't do SNL. You know what I mean? And like that's the most craziest thing ever. Like I would never disrespect my culture, my Black women, my, you know, people like my mom and sister, and, you know, and like wife and like everybody, you know what I
Well,
mean?
I think the end result, though, the end result of pointing it out about doing the roles was more about we need representation, and I think that's what message that ultimately got out there in the right way and had a tremendous impact. And that's what you said. I mean, it's the result that counts,
Yeah.
and it got great results and opened up a lot of doors. Um, Bob wants to know what goes into writing a sketch. You've been in the sketch room, you've been writing a sketch for years, you've been supervising sketches. I mean, what goes into it? It is an art, a credible art form.
It definitely is, man. I think writers should get way more credit, you know. It's a skill, you know. They go to, you know, creative workshop classes, or they have a degree in writing, or whatever it is. There's a formula to it, you know, and it has to be learned and applied, basically. So a person like me, who hasn't necessarily been trained in writing, like on all that, you know, the scripts were written for us, and they would give us a character and be like, well, you know, put a voice on this, or what would this guy like walk and talk like? And then that's when our creativity would come in and be like, I think he talks like this. He's a superhero, or his arms are
Right.
or whatever. But now, having the responsibility of writing, I've noticed I'm way better off writing with a writer. You know what I mean? Because like my ideas go left and right and all over the place. So a writer is able to pull all that stuff down and then, you know, kind of organize it into a linear story that can make sense, basically. So when I had the idea for what's up with that, I was like, I went to my buddy Brian Tucker, and I was like, I got an idea for a talk show where I sing the theme song over and over again, and I never let it. And he's like, okay. And then it, you know, kind of starts from there. Like we, you know, started the theme song, and then it's like, okay, cool, got that. And then what will we have guests? Or it's like, yeah, probably like a panel of guests, and like, you know, the first couple people could be important, and the third person could be, you know, kind of whatever. And he was like, man, he threw the Lindsey Buckingham in there of it all, which is my favorite joke of the whole thing. The fact that Lindsey Buckingham from Fleetwood Mac is one of my dearest friends, and I never give him a chance to talk on the show. It just makes me cry laughing every single time. And we started like going with that bit, and like at the intro is like, Lindsay, I know you got something special to say. I'm gonna guarantee you that we're gonna get to you today. And it was the best. So just taking the, you know, wacky things that make me laugh, like one small thing about something, and then being able to stretch that into an actual sketch is a skill that I think that, you know, is a very impressive thing that writers have. You know, I really envy it. I mean, I can, you know, finally do it now because I've been exposed to it for so long. But in the beginning, I was really like enamored and in awe with those people because, yeah, they had the formula. They were able to, you
But
know.
your instincts are amazing. You know, like when you talk about the core of the joke, and then hate to say like what makes something funny, you know what makes something funny, you
Yeah.
know, and that's a huge skill. And then being able to build the timing of it,
Mhm.
which is amazing. I mean, you know, you said something really interesting in one of your interviews that the sort of something about the smallest distraction can throw off the whole experience of a joke. And that I thought that was so smart, and that you've experienced that from time to time. Could you talk about that, how that
Absolutely. I
influences a
mean,
joke?
that's the thing that keeps SNL the freshest, you know, is because comedy is earned every single time. Every single time you present a joke, you got to earn that response from people. They're not just going to automatically laugh because they're hearing something new and they know it's a joke and they know that they should respond. They have to genuinely be engaged to the point of a reaction. You know what I mean? And you have to build that every single time. So the show is always fresh. It's always new. Like I can never just fall back into super comfortable shoes. Like, you know, my character and you know what my character would think. So I don't have to work that hard to try to pull a laugh out of you. It's like, no, I'm presenting new material for people to process and think about and, you know, wonder if they're liking this along the way or what's really happening, all within like the first 10 seconds of seeing something. You need to be getting a
Right.
laugh out of there. You know what I mean? It's crazy. So
And Andre wants to know. I mean, I think you're talking about the writing again. That feels like he noticed a change in the writing the past year. Do you think it's changed as a result of the post George Floyd or the all of the turbulence that's gone on?
I mean, I think it was, shifting towards younger generations in the last couple seasons, even before all of that. Like it's just been naturally kind of steering younger because the writers are getting younger, you know what I mean, and everybody is pretty young there on the writing staff at this point. I'm like the old man in the cast, you know what I'm saying? It's just that kind of generational turnover that's happening now. Yeah, which
Oh
is
my God, you're the old man in the cast. Oh my
right?
God.
It's crazy. I'm the old man in the cast on a 46-year-old show. How does that make you feel?
You are the longest tenured cast member. Congratulations, right? It's the biggest record, right?
Thank
Yeah.
you very much. Yeah, it's great.
But one more SNL, which is I think a great secret everybody talks about in Holly Rock and whatever. But if you're a writer, they say you want to get an extra laugh in the script, right? You write in the line, Kenan reacts. It's cheating, but they do it.
It works. I don't know.
And it works.
If it works.
For you and you do what? Okay.
Come on.
Kenan reacts. Just keep
It,
writing in your scripts so people will know what you're talking about.
it's just one of those moments where it's like the audience is thinking the exact same thing. You know what I mean? So to see their thoughts manifest on somebody else gives them that reaction. It's like, yes, I'm laughing because that's what I would be doing. Like that's how I would be.
Oh, great. Well, you're obviously all that work paid off in so many different ways. You won an Emmy finally, all right? Congratulations.
Hello.
And
thank you very much.
Hello. How did that feel after those times? It must have felt great, huh?
Crazy surreal. Crazy surreal. It was my first time ever going to the Emmys, even though they had invited me since I've been on the show. But, I was, I've gone through my ups and downs with, weight and stuff like that. So I wasn't necessarily super comfortable in a tuxedo. And I was like, if I'm not really like nominated just myself or whatever, I don't, you guys don't have to like waste money on me going, you know what I mean? Like if the show's nominated, great. If the writers are nominated, like cool, you guys go, I'll support you from back home. So my first year where I was like, all right, I feel good about going, I guess, because I kind of have to, because we're nominated. I was like, cool. It just so happened to be the year that Lauren was producing the show because it was on NBC. So I wound up having to like sing the opening number, you know what I mean? And
That's right.
do all this stuff. And like,
he wanted to use you as go-to guy, right?
Yeah, like I just became like the guy.
You can work for it.
Yeah. So like it was fine, but I was just doing all this dance rehearsal stuff all week. And they separate the creative Emmys and the big show Emmys by a week. It was like, Saturday and a Saturday or a Sunday and a Sunday. And the creative, was when our award was up. So there's a lot less stress, but it was still, all the professionals, like all the adults of the industry, basically, like all the art department, makeup, hair,
right?
The people that really make it work behind the scenes. And it was a room full of them. It was a big deal, but it wasn't like all like celebrities or whatever. So I felt like I was amongst like just the people, and I felt very comfortable. But when it was time for our award or whatever, I was backstage because I had just done something, and Carol Burnett was presenting our award, and I was like, this is just crazy. And they were telling me like, all right, just stand right here in case you win, and if you do win, you're gonna go out this way or whatever. I'm like, man, are they setting me up? Like, what do you mean? Like, are y'all like telling me that I'm winning? Like, or if I lose, is it going to be like ridiculous for me to be this close and then have to kind of turn around and still walk backstage and like, kind of walk humbly back to my seat or whatever. But she called our name and I was the first one out there. I ran out there so fast and I was jumping up and down. It was unbelievable. And to be presented an award, that is as far as you can go in television, you know what I mean, and just in a room full of colleagues,
awesome.
It was awesome.
Great, so well deserved. So much, and you're now just. It's like you have so much creativity. You're exploding in so many different directions, which is so great to see. You you have a podcast, which is, amazing.
Thank you very much.
Which talks about pop culture, right? And or culture, pop culture with Tanny Morale. I encourage all of you to download it. It's called You Already Know. It's really Kenan hanging out in a way that you really want to hang out and listen to Kenan. Talks about everything from the Lakers to reality TV, which I didn't know you were such a big fan of, but you go deep. You go deep. And there's one riff that I heard, and I don't remember what it was about. There's an idea of how he goes deep. You got talking about the Atlas statue in Rockefeller Center in New York, and musing about how old that story is, and then how heavy the world must be, and what it is, and he must be Tormund from the Game of Thrones. I mean, you guys,
we went
deep and in a way that's really funny, and I encourage people to listen to it.
Man, thank you. Yeah, it just started out as two friends who have a love for the biz. He has a wealth of knowledge for behind the scenes people. Like, he knows the story of like Pulp Fiction and what Tarantino was doing and going through when he wrote that, or he's read the first draft of Pulp Fiction or whatever. It's intriguing for me because I've been on the other side of it for so long, and I've also always been, a historian and trying to know certain directors and writers and the stories of how things are created as well. So we just started chatting back and forth, and we always have these long conversations like, man, we should probably record this or whatever. And that's how it started. And then this, pandemic and summer with George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and Breonna Taylor was just wild. So it became a very serious obligation as well, just being young Black men to kind of, talk through our experience while we're going through it. And, it's been very rich content in my opinion. And I definitely think it's the closest thing for people to listen to me as a person, is in, I mean, it's the kind of the only platform where I'm really just being my true self. Like, I'm not trying to overly entertain or anything. We're just talking.
You already know. Watch it. It's listen to it, and I agree. And you have a lot to offer, Kenan, and more to offer on your own sitcom finally, which so many of us have been excited about you having. And you did the pilot. Chris Rock directed the pilot. They picked up the show. You actually worked the whole day on the sitcom, and then agreed to do this for us. Came right off the set.
Yes.
A lot of people want to know about the project. Tell us a little about the show. You play a widowed dad, right?
Yes, I'm just beyond grateful. God has blessed me in so many different ways, but day one is in the can. And yeah, I'm a widowed father, basically, with my father-in-law who's living with me, trying to help, but being more of a thorn in my side than anything. And that's played by the legendary Don Johnson. Just basically, I'm kind of like a morning talk show, television talk show host, basically, and the show's called Wake Up with Kenan. So they're really leaning into the whole use of my name thing, and it's a lot to to kind of digest, as there's so much mystery around what it's really going to be. But I'm really optimistic because I think the cast is really strong. Chris Redd is in it, and Sam J is one of our writers on SNL, but she's a brilliant comedian, and she has a great Netflix special out right now. Kimberly Lewis, who was on Single Parents with the great Taron Killam. She's playing the station manager, kind of producer type person. And then other characters are going to come in and out, like JB Smoove, I guess, is going to do a cameo, and then people like that, So it feels really.
When will it be? When will it premiere, you think? When will it premiere?
It's premiering. It's been a lot of different rumors, like January, or it was supposed to premiere after the Olympics this summer, but the Olympics got pushed back to next summer. So now I'm hearing January talk or whatever, but hopefully we can have a bunch of episodes shot to where we can show trailers to where it looks like we've done a lot of work, as opposed to just trailers on one specific episode and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
they're trying to figure that out, but it's super exciting, man. It's a lot to deal with, like seeing my name blasted on golf carts and every single little thing, you know, that's around there. But at the
You're
same time,
number one. You're number one on the
yeah,
cast list, right?
it's a lot. Yeah. But at the same time, there's a lot of people, you know, giving to this effort. So I definitely don't feel like it's all on my shoulders, like Atlas necessarily, like not even close.
Well, in case you think that's the only thing he's doing, he's a guest judge, as you know, on The Masked Singer, America's Got Talent. He does a voice for Trolls. He does a nationwide kids talent search for young comics to give them the opportunity with Adrian Lopez, who's a colleague of ours for years. And shout out to Adrian if she's there.
Yeah.
He's even graced to co-work and co-write on a sitcom with me called Scoogle,
Come on.
in which he plays a mischievous Alexa type app for a group of cool nerds who are hungry for help in their transition to tweendom. And we're going to get that thing off the ground together because it's a killer.
That's only one project we have. We have several more.
That's right.
We've been doing our homework. I was going to come to you when we were ready. Oh man.
I'm ready because it's such an amazing pleasure to work with you. And I just want to thank you so much for joining us. We so admire Kenan as a role model, and you've really been that for a lot of us out there. And it's Shine Global. Thank you for doing it for Shine, Kenan.
Of course. I mean, Shine, like, I didn't really know that your wife was doing what she was doing, I don't think. You know what I mean? Because when we see each other, we kind of just, you know, ham around and joke around and then focus on the project we're doing. But you invited me out to that documentary premiere, and I finally like caught back up with your wife probably after 25 years, maybe 30, like something crazy like that. And she was very serious. You know, it wasn't like the joke around kind of energy that we have. And I was like, oh, well, I wonder what this documentary is about to be about. And then I watched it, and it was life changing. Like, I didn't know where I thought it was just like a sweet story about a humanitarian saving these young girls or whatever. And it turned out that he was a super predator and blah, blah, blah. My mind was just blown. And then I realized I saw the vision of what they were really doing. Like, they were saving lives by telling these stories. And I was like, well, thank you very much for opening my eyes to that. And I can't believe it's that close to home and I didn't even know about it. You know what I mean? Like, you have to really kind of pay attention to what everybody's doing because, you know, your wife's not a big promoter. She's not going to just go around telling everybody what she's up to and stuff like that. She's just doing her work like almost like a kind of like a guardian angel of these stories that need to be told and protected so that they can be told on the biggest platforms that you guys have access to. So kudos to you. It's super, super important work. And I couldn't be happier to do anything I can for the Shine Global family for sure. Like, sitting here talking to my buddy is a no-brainer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
In Shine Global, we do celebrate children's resilience and shine a light on issues that children and family are facing around the world. So please make a donation to support us, to help us make films that raise awareness, promote action, and inspire change. And right now we're hosting conversations about policing in America using our film Virtually Free, about the incarceration of children. We're filming in refugee camps in Bangladesh to shine a light on the lack of education and even water for these persecuted families. We're telling the stories of how military families are surviving during the COVID-19 pandemic. And our films bring you to places you've never been before and never heard of, as Kenan mentioned, and we can't do without you. So please make a donation to Shine Global today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you again to Kenan. We appreciate the help. These are all of our children, and we need to help them.
Absolutely.
Take care. Bye-bye now.
Well said, Albie. That was well said.